Welcome to Mishna study, Masechet Kilayim, Perek Dalet, Mishnah Dalet. Over here on Mishnah, we're going to speak about a mechitza. So you have a partition, right, which is going to act as a fence, and it's made out of reeds. And we want to know, does this count as a partition or not, right? So if you have a partition of reeds going up vertically, right, so it's basically acting as a fence, and you want to plant on the other side. So you have a vineyard on one side, you have this partition of reeds. Now you want to plant right up against this partition. Are you allowed to or not? And that's what we're going to speak about. And it's going to depend on how, I want to say, either tightly knit, tightly woven this partition is, right? Or let's say better yet, how far each pole is standing away one from the next. So that's what we're going to discuss. Mechitzat hakanim, im en ben kaneh lahavero shlosha tevachim kedei sheyikanes hagedi, harei zo kimchitza. Right? So if you have a mechitza, you have a partition of reeds that in between from one reed to the next, there's less than 3 tefachim, right? So we know less than 3 tefachim. Halacha Moshe Sinai, we call this lavud. This is an important concept that came up earlier. But as long as there's less than 3 tefachim, a fist being a tefach, right? Less than 3 tefachim, 3 fists in width, it's going to be considered lavud, and we view it as if it's connected. Right? So how does this look? Right? Anything these reeds, they're less than 3 tefachim apart. Kedeshi kanes hagedi. So here the Mishnah even stresses that a goat can squeeze through it. Right? I shouldn't say squeeze. Harambam says that the gedi could go in one shot through tefachim, and anytime the gedi could run through shelo bedohak, right, without having to really finagle to squeeze through, that's considered lavud, that's considered 3 tefachim, that's where we got the measurement from, or halacha Moshe Sinai, better yet, and that's considered a mechitza. Now, let's say you have a gader, let's say a real fence, shenifratz, it was actually broken open, right? So now there's a hole in the fence. Ad 10 amot, up until 10 amot, the hole, the opening is up until 10 amot, haro kepetach, right? You see over here, it's less than 10 amot wide, so we treat it like an opening, like a doorway. And what's the law? You could plant all the way up against it, right? So you have the vineyard going up to the fence, and then you have, you want to plant wheat on the other side of the fence. That's fine. You could go ahead, you could plant up against it. It's okay because we consider it like the doorway. But yater miken, let's say it's more than 10 amot, keneged hapirtza asur, up until the fence is going to be asur. So if this is more than 10 tefachim of an opening, then any vines that are up against the fence is going to be asur. Also, the wheat, by the way, on the other side of the fence is also going to be asur, right? Because they're osir one another. It's called this is kilei akerem. This is kilayim of a vineyard, right? So if they're too close to each other, they're going to be asur. Right? If it's a vineyard, anything up within the 4 amot of the vineyard is going to be asur. And over here, because the opening is more than 10 amot, we say that it's considered a total opening. We don't consider it like a doorway. Now, let's say let's say there are many smaller openings, right? Opening 1, 2, 3. So now we need to look. We need to look at the total. Take the sum total of all the standing fence versus all the opening. So if the if the openings are more than the standing fence, then keneged hapirtza is asur. Then anything parallel to the openings are going to be asur, right? Anything that's parallel to the fence, that's considered a fence. It doesn't matter how big or small it is, right? That's a fence for the fence for all fence purposes. But what's parallel to the opening, that's going to be asur. But let's say let's say you have more paruts, right? Let's say you have more openings. Sorry, I read that wrong. If you have more standing fence, right, than openings, then the whole thing is mutar. And if you have more paruts, more openings than standing fence, then anything parallel to the pirtza, anything parallel to the opening is going to be asur. Right? So basically, we treat the fence, take the sum total of the fence. If the sum total of the fence is more, then we treat it all as a fence. And everything parallel to it, as long as it's not more than 10 amot, is going to be mutar, right? It's not kilayim. But let's say the openings, the sum total of the openings are more than the fence, then we say anything parallel to the openings is going to be asur, right? And that's the end of the Mishnah. Rambam though does ask, he points out, he goes, what if it's exactly equal, right? We said if there's more opening, it's going to be asur. If there's more fence, it's going to be mutar. What's exactly 50-50? So Rambam addresses this, and he says, if it's exactly 50-50, if you have parutz ka'omed, it's exactly, mutar. It's allowed, meaning that you're allowed to plant opposite the opening itself. What's interesting also is Rambam explains that when you say it's mutar, it's not just what was planted there you're allowed to eat. He even says you're allowed to plant parallel to those openings.